So welcome everybody to Midweek Mindfulness. Um, it's as always a pure delight to be here with all of you. I appreciate you making this time and space out of your week to connect, to to take some time for self nurture, to grow ourselves, to become stronger and more resilient, more emotionally and mentally balanced people. Um, we were Today, the University of Richmond is conducting a course on. It's actually it was a sign up for faculty, staff, and I think students. That's being put on by the HR program, and it's about really beginning to embody diversity and equity and inclusion, and how does that work, and what does it look like, and so there are articles to be read and some interesting things. So today's reflection was on the "I Have a Dream" speech and one of Maya Angelou's poems. But we were really looking at how can we take what was so active, um, back during the civil rights movement that is still ongoing, and be able to help people in the university community as well as the larger community be able to embody some of these values. How can we do that in a meaningful way and still dealing with the systemic racism and other things that we deal with, which of course fell perfectly hand in hand, so beautifully with today's inauguration, um, which seemed to be focused very much on creating that kind of equity and inclusivity within our culture as a whole, um, regardless of where you fall in the political spectrum. There was a beauty and a hope and kind of not to be overly idealistic, but a sense of promise, that people were going to work really hard to make things better. And you know, I think holding on to and kind of looking at the vision that we use to live our lives is a really powerful way of understanding how we live our lives, right? So like, what is our understanding of the world? What is our internal vision? um, because if our perspective of the world is a dark place or a you know a a place that's rooted in fear, which isn't unrealistic, um, but it contains all those things. So it's not that we want to ignore things that are happening that are difficult or fearful or angry or destructive. We want to be very cognizant of those things, absolutely. But where do we focus our attention? It's like the old Native American saying about the young boy that goes to his grandfather, um, and his grandfather tells him that he has right that he has two aspects to himself. One is anger and one is love. And the grandson says, "Well, which wolf wins in this fight between anger and love?" And of course, the grandfather says, "Whichever one you feed." Um, it's not that we don't want to be mindful of both of them, of course, right? We have to and really need to. But at the same time, which one do we feed within ourselves? And so, in that meeting today, when we were sharing, um, the question always comes down to, in a community where this idea of kind of like this radical individualism where we're all on our own, right? And we have to be able to manage everything on our own. Um, and yet, the very genuine understanding that we are a community and that we only function well within community. Like, this is part of our evolution as human beings. It's like, we have oxytocin that, like connects us and bonds us with the other people in our lives. So how do you manage these two really challenging aspects? And um, and a lot of people brought up really great ideas and really powerful stuff. Um, but just taking just a moment, I was like, well, this is a beautiful opportunity, right, to do both of these. I was like, whatever path you choose, we can't ignore one without the other. And so often, everything in our lives is focused on the external, right? It's focused on, how beautiful your house is, or how beautiful your partner is, right? Or how successful you are financially, or what if your kids go to the best colleges or the best schools, right? Like we all know this that you are, and that becomes such a primary focus in our lives that the human connections and the real genuine depth and richness of the personal growth and the personal satisfaction, and dare I say even like happiness that we can cultivate in our lives very often really gets left behind. It's a bold thing to say in the world today that people can be happy, not deliriously falling over happy all the time. That's not what I'm talking about. Not happiness is an emotion, right? That's a feeling that we have, happiness, right? But genuine satisfaction with life, right? Like genuine contentedness inside of ourselves, because we're engaged and we're connected. Um, we're growing, which is the natural state of things. Everything's in a constant state of fluctuation and change. And when we think about, well, our bodies are just getting older and they're going to die. Of course, that's true. But our minds and our hearts and our interconnectivity with others and our relationships can continuously grow, right? And so again, it's like, where do we focus our attention? What is our vision? What is it pointing toward? What are we noticing on a daily basis, both inside of ourselves and then outside of ourselves? um, and if we don't do the inner work, can we do the outer work, right? It's like the lottery winners that have so much money, they don't know what to do with it, but they don't have the inner structure to be able to resist, the really challenging parts of living in the community that we do. And many of them end up really spending all of their money and they end up in a worse position. And I know that's a classic and kind of cliche example. Um, but the United States is filled with really unhappy, very wealthy people. And not that you have to be unhappy and wealthy, right? You don't have to be, you could be poor, you could be middle class, you could be very wealthy, you could be extremely wealthy, you could all those things that, happiness, true deep rooted connectedness, really contentedness in who we are, isn't dependent on those external things, right? We can find um, genuine joy, real meaning and purpose in our lives without, being dependent on the external circumstances. And that's because those circumstances always change, right? They consist constantly change. Empires rise and empires fall. Like ancestors on my father's side, like they were Etruscans who then became Romans. Ask them how things are going. Things are pretty rough in Italy right now, right? So it's like things change over time and they never stop changing. But if we can embrace that in a way where we have a stable place within ourselves, where we can really connect, right, and we can form an identity rooted in something that is really powerful and connected within. And that doesn't mean that we just live within, right? We don't have to sequester ourselves away in a hermitage or a monastery or go live in a cave or somewhere in the woods in order to be happy. Like that's not necessary either. Um, when we really connect within, and then we take that deep connection within ourselves and we maintain it everywhere we go, right? Then every situation that we come into becomes an opportunity to then grow that internal connection with ourselves. And so the inside feeds the outside, and I'm not, you know, I'm just another person going through my life trying to find my way. Uh, but what I have noticed with my experience over time is that the more I work on my inner growth, the easier the external growth gets because I'm not so emotionally charged or mentally focused, um, uh, or thrown out of balance by what happens externally. Right, I'm able to maintain a sense of self with a deeper, balance within myself. And to me, that's what really, really makes all the difference. And people have noticed this in my life, right? So, being a military guy with PTSD that came out that was really, really angry with life and was really, I was struggling to fit into the larger community. And I went through counseling and I went through all of that training and did all of that work. But coming out of that, it was really discovering mindfulness and meditation that allowed me to keep taking those lessons learned and integrate them so deeply into my daily life, right? That has allowed me to go from somebody who was very, very angry and could be very physically confrontational to somebody that is here meeting with all of you today, getting ready to mindfully, have a meditation and sit and explore our hearts and minds in a meaningful way. So, if I have anything, that's the one thing I have to offer is that experience in my life. So as we drop in today, as we begin to sit and connect our bodies and our minds and our breath and our thoughts and our feelings, um, notice what comes up for you, right? Notice the feelings that arise. Notice the thoughts that arise. And as we're going through, see if you can notice how they're maybe interconnected, right? Is there a strong thought? And is there a feeling that then reinforces that strong thought? Without judgment, just looking at it, right? We don't have to judge it as good or bad or anything. It's just a thought that's passing through, right? And it's a feeling that is supporting that. Um, and then how does that activate our bodies, right? So in our evolutionary way of being, if there's something that is dangerous or something that's wonderful, right? It activates, we notice it, right? So when we notice it, that creates a thought. That thought then creates a feeling about it like, oh, yeah, this is good because this is pleasurable or it feels good or it's good for me. Um, that then activates, right, the chemical reaction in the body to say, oh, I really, this is good stuff, I want to keep doing this. So that activates the thought, which then reinforces the feeling, which reinforces the physical response, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that can work in a positive way and it can work in a really challenging way, right, depending on what it is that we're encountering in our environment. In either situation, when we stop and take a breath and we drop in, right, and we really connect with our thoughts, um, but our body breath connection, right, that deep connection that allows us to really sit back and just watch what we're experiencing, really watch our feelings, watch our thoughts, take note of them without any judgment. And if you notice judgment, then that's okay. Notice that you're being judgmental. That's okay. That's a perfectly normal human reaction. Notice that you're feeling angry, right? You aren't anger, you're feeling angry. Notice that you're feeling judgment. You aren't judgment, you're feeling it, you're experiencing it right now, right? So when we create that little bit of a separation, then we're able to look at that situation and respond to it, right? In a far richer, deeper, and more meaningful way. So again, we're going to watch our thoughts. We're going to watch the feelings that connect to them, regardless of what comes up. Although, let me say this: if you have a really strong feeling, right? I know we've talked about this before, but we have this window of tolerance, right? So we've got, say it's like a 1 to 10, right? So if the feeling that comes up is like a 1 to 3, then yeah, watch it and see what happens. If it's a 4 to 6, think, well, this may be the time, this may not be the time, right? Maybe I'll let this go for now and see what else comes up for me. If it's above a 6, then definitely like, okay, maybe we don't want to manage that in this particular moment unless we're really, really comfortable with it, right? It may be that we need some help with that or we need to learn more about it before we're really ready to tackle it. Okay, so look at, keep that window of tolerance in mind if something really powerful comes up, and then you know decide if you're gonna notice that and really examine it. And if it feels really strong and it's too much, you know, take that nice exhale and just let it drift on down the river of thought. Or just simply open your eyes and reconnect to the environment around you and normalize your experience again. and let those, those parts of yourself that normally manage those things to come back into place. So this shouldn't be an overwhelming experience. Yeah, but we want to practice sitting and noticing. So go ahead and get into your meditation position. Let your back be nice and tall. And if your feet are on the floor, let them rest nice and flat. And then let your hands just really carefully or gently in your lap, right? Honoring them in this moment, but letting them really, really go. Seeing if you can just completely give up all control of your hands and let them really rest as I invite the bell. So now just begin to notice your breath. Not controlling it in any way, just taking note of what your body finds appropriate for its breathing requirements in this moment. And see where you notice the sensation of the breath the most easily. For some people, it's the nostrils or the tip of the nose. For some folks, it's like our sinus cavities or the back of the throat. Might be the rise and the fall of the belly as the diaphragm pushes down and then relaxes. Just bringing your awareness to the part of your body where you notice the breath the most easily. And then with each in-breath, I want you to just really sharpen your focus on the sensation of the breath, right? The sensation of your body. And on the out-breath, just really relax, letting go any stress that your body might be holding. Just letting all those muscles just relax, letting that stress drain out of your body right down into the floor. Sharpen your focus on the in-breath and let your body get heavy on the out-breath. Heavier and heavier, more and more relaxed. And as always, as we're doing this, thoughts will arise in your mind. Just take note of them. Notice the thought and see if you can notice without judgment. It's not a good thought, a bad thought, a right thought, a wrong thought. It's a thought, and it's one that you're experiencing right now. So just see if you can notice it. And if it doesn't feel like a thought you'd like to explore, then on your next out breath, just label it thinking. and just send it on down the river of thought. It's just a thought. We're going to have 90,000 more of those today. And if it feels important, that's okay. Take note of it and then let it go on down the river. But if it feels like something you'd like to explore, see if you can notice the thought without any judgment, just looking to see where it came from. Is it from an experience you had? Is it from something that you heard? Is it something from the past? Concern for the future? Or maybe an anticipation for something exciting or fond memory? Just taking note of it. Seeing if there's an emotion attached to it. Identifying the emotion, again, non-judgmentally. All feelings are normal things for humans to experience. No need to resist them. And if it feels important, watch what your body does in response. Is there excitement? Is there a clenching in your chest? Concern, worry, joy? Again, just noticing. And then slipping on the label, oh, I'm feeling. And let that go on down the river as well. And come back to your breath, back to the sensation at the tip of the nose or the back of the throat or the rise and the fall of your tummy. Again, noticing the thought, looking to see where it arose from, connecting it to a feeling if there is one, noticing the relationship between the two, and then the reaction that they create in your body. And then gently applying the label, thinking, feeling, and letting it flow on down the river. Notice how your body responds when you release it. Do you feel that relaxation setting back in? Do you notice your shoulders getting heavy again? Again, we're not dismissing our thoughts or feelings in any way. We're seeking to create a space where we can experience them fully and honor them for showing up. But we don't want to then cling to them or push them away. We just want to allow them to flow on through the way thoughts and feelings do. It's only when we repeat them over and over again that they begin to really condition our minds and our hearts and change our behavior. So just noticing. Now bringing your awareness back to your body, back to the sensation of your breath. Maybe breathing in nice and fully through the nose and slowly exhaling nice and deeply, really extending that exhale, activating our parasympathetic nervous system and allowing our bodies just to relax. Scanning down through your body, looking for any place where you might be holding tension. Forehead, your jaw, neck, shoulders. And on the out breath, just releasing any tension that happens to be there. And coming back to the breath. And now taking a nice deep breath in, and with a nice long exhale, begin to reconnect to your space. Maybe wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and when you're ready, opening your eyes. Taking your time, letting yourself readjust. I just want to again offer my thanks to all of you for being here today. I so appreciate all of you. Thank you for absolutely, Laurie. So glad to see or to be here with all of you. So take good care, have a mindful week, and if this is a part of your practice, see how it goes this week. And I'll see everybody next Wednesday at regular time, 1 o'clock for midweek mindfulness. Take care.